Learning leadership skills from a former Navy SEAL seems like an opportunity that you shouldn't pass up. I spoke to the legendary Jocko Willink on my Under the Skin Luminary podcast, which you can listen to on Apple or you can subscribe to on Luminary. In this fantastic conversation, we talked about democracy, the ethics of leadership, the shortcomings of politicians these days, our ethics and our values, and what leadership is really about. If you want to listen to the rest of it, because remember, it's an audio podcast, even though you guys are watching it on platforms that have a visual component, then go over to Luminary or Apple and listen or subscribe to the podcast there. It's not just Jocko Willink, Jordan Peterson's on there, all manner of fantastic educational, informative podcasts, plus a weekly meditation. In this chat with Jocko, we talk about the values of the military and the power of leadership and the nature of democracy. Some really interesting insights on a fascinating subject. Let me know what you think. How do you use these ideas in a kind of general and ubiquitous way?
Yeah, that was one of the most surprising things when I retired from the military was that I was institutionalized my entire life. I mean, I joined the Navy when I was 18 years old. I spent 20 years in there. So the only thing I really understood in the world, the only thing I did not understood, the only thing I knew was military. This is what we do. Now, I will say that there's the image that people have of what military leadership must be like, right? If you haven't been in the military, then what you see in a movie is some sergeant or some captain barking orders at people and the soldiers carrying on, and that must be what it's like. And a real obvious question would be, well, how the heck is that going to work in a civilian environment? You can't get up there and bark orders at people and tell everyone what to do and expect them just to do it. Well, that's because that's a misconception that military leadership is like that. Now, are there some leaders in the military that do behave like that? Yes, there are. Are they considered good leaders? No, they're not. And one thing that's unfortunate in the American military is you're in a leadership position for about a year and a half or 2 years. So a year and a half or 2 years, you come in, you take over a platoon. You're in charge of this platoon. You start some training. You complete your training. You go on deployment overseas. You come back and it's been 18 months. So that's how long you were in charge for. So like when I was a young guy in a SEAL platoon, you get a bad boss, a guy that's a bad leader, a guy that's going to bark orders. It takes you a few months before you figure out like, hey, you know what? He's really like this. This guy is actually not a good leader. And then you think, well, what should we do? Should we do something about it? And then another few months passes by and then you're on deployment. You're like, this guy's horrible. I hope we never have to work for this guy again. Then you get done and he goes and gets promoted. That's what happens. So that's why some of that, dictatorial or tyrannical leadership can survive in the military because people aren't in the troops will just wait him out. The troops will just be like, oh, he'll be gone. He'll be gone in 4 months. Don't worry about it anymore. In the civilian sector, that doesn't really happen as much. So you have to be a little bit more conscious about the way you're behaving. But in the military, the good leaders are the ones that are going to listen to what the team has to say. The good leaders, and look, this I know this sounds crazy, but like I would go out on operations where I'm the ground force commander, the overall guy in charge of an assault of 2 or 3 buildings with multiple people out there, multiple platoons taking down buildings, and I'm in charge of this whole thing. And the only thing I would say during that operation would be execute, execute, execute. I would just say go. And then I would be able to sit back and the team would know what to do and they would make decisions and they would make things happen and they would handle problems and they would get all that done without me saying a word. And that's the ideal. That's what actually I'm shooting for all the time. And it's the same thing in any organization. When an organization truly understands what their mission is and what their purpose is, the leader doesn't have to say a lot. The leader definitely doesn't have to bark orders. So you want to talk about what does good leadership look like inside of a family? Well, it's the same thing that good leadership looks like in a SEAL platoon. You listen to what other people have to say. You know what? If they come up with a plan and that plan is a viable plan, let's use your plan, Russell. Hey Russell, how do you want to do this project? You come up with a plan. It's a viable plan. Let's do it your way. Sounds good. That's what I'm looking to do. I'm always looking to utilize my subordinate's plan or utilize my subordinate's methodology. I'm looking to utilize you got 2 kids. You think like, oh, this is really, I got 4 kids, Russell. I got 4, 3 girls, 1 boy. If I can say, hey, how do you want to do this? And they come up with a plan, they're going to enact that plan and execute that plan with much more vigor if it's their plan, if they have ownership of that plan. So regardless of the environment that you're in, if you as a leader are humble and you listen and you give ownership away and you empower people, you are going to be elevated. And what's weird about this, and we started off talking a little bit about ego, the hardest part of this is we have to overcome our own ego. Because there's part of me that if Russell comes up with a plan and we go with his plan, even though I'm the boss, it's going to make me look weak. And I'm not going to allow that. So you know what, Russell? You know what? We're using my plan. We're using my plan. You be quiet and execute my plan. And I think in some twisted way, I think that makes me look strong. But the whole team knows they look at me and go, yeah, he's insecure. He's weak. He can't even let Russell step up because he's intimidated by Russell. It's like, so you can't do that. What you have to say is like, hey, you know what, Russell, your plan's better than mine. Let's go ahead and execute your plan. So that's the way this leadership idea transfers across any leadership domain.
Sure, I understand. Well, kind of an open-heartedness, a compassion. One aspect of leadership you've talked about is kind of being communicative and open. But God, obviously in a sort of a highly disciplined environment with high stakes like the military, there has to be a clear vision. There has to be a degree of consensus and discipline. I'm sort of wondering what you think about sort of, I suppose you have to at some point establish what a vision is, like whether that's for a society or for a unit or a platoon or for a business. This is our vision. The leader, I suppose, communicates the vision and then empowers people to consensually pursue that vision together.
Yes, and the most important part of that vision is we have to explain why we're doing what we're doing. So I can't just say, hey, we're going to assault this building, go do it. I need to say, hey, listen, we're going to go assault this building. The reason why we're doing this is because there's an insurgent that's been utilizing this building to build bombs that have been used against American and coalition forces. We need to get this guy off the battlefield. This is why we're doing it. So people need to understand why they're doing it. You can't just expect, and it's the same thing in the corporate world. You can't just think, hey, we're going to build this product and sell it for as much money as we can. No, actually what we're trying to do is we're trying to build this product. It's a very valuable product for the customer that we have out there. There's a high demand signal for it. It's going to make people's lives easier, and it's going to be very beneficial to our customers. That's why we're doing this. Oh, and by the way, are we going to make money? Yes, we are going to make money. And what are we going to do with that money? Well, we're going to develop more products that are going to be even better for people. So people have to understand not just what they're doing, but why they're doing it.
That's very interesting. I wonder how that functions in a time of kind of crisis, like it could be argued we are in, with the kind of divisions that are emerging within the pandemic, the kind of cynicism and doubt about the agenda of pharmaceutical companies and government, the feelings of people that were supporters of Trump that now feel sort of abandoned and not catered for by a kind of a centrist, democratic, liberal left that don't seem often interested in the lives of ordinary working people. And a corporate culture that does seem like it's much more like that it might utilize that idea of purpose. We're going to create this product that's going to make people's lives better, but it seems like that in your version the add-on was, oh, by the way, we're going to make money, it's going to be good for our lifestyle. For me, that is plainly the raison d'etre behind organizations such as, say, like, just take something like this the athlete, the Naomi Osaka, that says I ain't doing them interviews no more, the media makes me mentally ill. And then the pressure that's on her, because it's like, hold on a minute, you've signed these contracts, you've got to do these deals. It sort of exposes what it is really, what this really is. This is a business. If you want to be a tennis player, you do what you're told, or that you're out, and like, so what I would say is that the values that often underwrite corporatism, in my assessment, Jocko, are, necessarily about profit. You take profit out of it, it's gone. The whole business structure evaporates. So in a sense, even though you might present to a team or a culture or a society, we're doing this because, X, Y, Z. I mean, say if you were saying to, like, those groups of people that you were running, those platoons, we're doing this because we have to maintain hegemony so that the military-industrial complex can continue to profit with the blood of young American lives, and you happen to be that, like, you know, like people are like, well, hang on, I'm not doing that. You know, I feel like that there's so much beauty, so much power, will, ingenuity in people, and it's so frequently being harnessed to use a word you've already used, nefarious ends, selfish ends. The lowest aspects of human nature, our lower values, are being escalated, elevated, deified, and cultures are being built around them. And if a person like you that has a set of principles, ideas, and sets of energy can be, you know, mobilized to the ends of the culture, and then you may succeed within it. But that's almost an inadvertent consequence rather than the defining principle. Do you see what I mean? Like that, whether it's in corporatism or militarism, it seems to me that sometimes, well, I would say usually, the goals are not commensurate with the needs of ordinary people.
Yeah, and what I'd say is that
I hope you're enjoying that. If you want to listen to, not watch, the rest of this podcast, go over to Apple. Wherever you are in the world, you can subscribe to Luminary now, and you get my podcast, Under the Skin, my other podcast, Above the Noise, where I do a guided meditation a week, and a whole host of other podcasts, including Dave Chappelle's podcast, Midnight Miracle. Amazing stuff on Luminary or on Apple. There's a link in the description if you want to get that. Also, like and subscribe to my videos here on YouTube, and stay in touch with me. Let me know what you think of this stuff in the comments. Stay connected. Thank you.